I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet here with Golan. The dude will not be here today. And I just want to say to everybody listening on audio, welcome. We are streaming on Rumble and YouTube and all over. But I also want to say we did a show the other day and I did not feel comfortable with it. So I axed the show. And the reason I did not feel comfortable with it is because we pride ourselves on not buying on the rumor and waiting for an actual story to come out. And that story was the National Guardsmen. And it's amazing how trained we've become to think it's a trans thing, Golan, not an Islamic terror type
Well,
thing.
not just a trans thing. There's a couple of things. One is the media got it all wrong, and the governor got it all wrong, and just before the show went on, we got confirmation from both the governor and the media that they had both passed away from their injuries. And so we came on the air talking specifically about the deaths that had occurred and the assumption that you're saying trans. I was saying left. I was saying at this point, the left, not because we say so, but because poll after poll lets us know that they feel totally comfortable with violence being a solution to political disagreement. And so why wouldn't we think that? And so, yeah, we automatically jump to that conclusion. And in this case, we were wrong.
I don't know how far off you are from saying, I mean, listen, the reality is they say he was radicalized here. That's what they're being the reporting now. And I want to ask you this simple question because there's, as we're living in a time where people love on ragging on Christianity or Christian Zionists and Jews. What neighborhood?
When you say people, you mean Tucker Carlson?
No, but I mean, there's quite a few. The left, and add Tucker and add whoever you want to the mix. Tucker just is the spokesperson for the Third Reich or the woke Reich, whatever you
Fourth
call it.
Reich.
Fourth Reich, right? And well, you never know. And he might have had a time machine, and we know he was mauled by a demon, so it would not be out of the realm of thinking. But I say this to anybody. I go to my parents' neighborhood. They live in Bergen County. You get there's a bunch of Korean churches, bunch of regular churches, bunch of synagogues. Anybody that would drive into this neighborhood, Golan, they would be like, I feel pretty safe here. This is a nice neighborhood. This is somewhere I want to live. This is somewhere where the house values go up. They don't go down. Yeah. And I challenge anybody to this that's bought in on this crazy propaganda. And I say this, Israel included. Where would you rather live, in Dearborn, Michigan, or Bergen County, New Jersey? Where would you rather live, in Patterson, New Jersey, or Bergen County, or Midwood, or other areas, or Kentucky, or other areas, or Mississippi, or other areas in the United States? Now, don't lie. We have an Islam problem in our country.
We don't have to lie. Nick Fuentes, when interviewed, said, I'd much rather live amongst the Jews.
Right.
That's true, by the way. Yeah. He did say that. So, I don't think we have to pretend like it's a mystery and we can't figure out what the answer is. Everyone knows what the answer is. I was talking to my daughter, and this is a really good kind of example of what you're talking about. She said, as we're driving around Barcelona, we went to go see my friends in a boy band. He performed here the other night, and so I took her to see the show. Go backstage, get called on stage during the show. It was very cool. And we're on our way to the theater, and we're walking, and we see, of course, Palestine this, Palestine that, a flag hanging somewhere, stickers, spray paint, whatever. And she goes, she's 9. She's like, why do you think there's so much stuff about Palestine? Why don't we see a bunch of spray paint about Israel? How come the only Stars of David I see spray painted are the ones that you do, Abba? Yes, I do. And I said, well, it's very simple. On one side of this equation, you have human beings, and on the other side of this equation, you have animals. And so if you have human beings that put up an Israeli flag, what happens when the animals get upset about it? Well, do they just cover it up? Do they put a sticker over it? Do they spray paint over it? No. Their answer is always, 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 always violence. And so people who are normal and moral, who would put up an Israeli flag, which is the normal moral thing to do, won't do it because they're worried about violent repercussions. She said, well, then how come they're comfortable putting up all the Palestinian stuff? I said, because Israelis are human beings and Jews are human beings and people who support democracies and good are human beings. And so we might not like it. So we'll spray paint over the sticker or we'll remove the flag or something like that. But we don't resort to violence. And that's why you don't want to be amongst the crowd who is automatically going to trigger violence. You want to be amongst the crowd who might get upset about something, but deal with it civilly. And it's the same thing here.
And it's good to know you are the Zionist Bansky of Spain, but to the
Banksy,
big to the t how do you say it?
Banksy,
What did I say?
Bansky. I like your version. Let's go with Bansky.
I was making him Jewish, and, but to the bigger point, when you look at it prior to Trump, and even still, there's so many neighborhoods in America where you can't fly an American flag. You know, you just can't.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
house might be your house might be not burglarized because they don't have the guts to
It'll
go
get
inside.
vandalized.
They'll be vandalized, right? Or if you have a Tesla or anything
I
like
was
that.
going to say, like going to a Tesla dealership.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so these are things like that I really like people really need to start thinking about before they drink the full on Kool-Aid from what they're hearing from people is where would you rather? You know, I can't I it's like we have to do this stuff on the most cellular and simplistic of levels of you now care about the Palestinians being killed. What changed? I'm just curious what changed in your thinking in the last 60 years. What changed? There has been zero difference. Israel actually, right? 1,200 people murdered, kidnapped. I'm just curious, when did people in America give a crap about anything going on in the Middle East until then? And they never did. And that's how you know this has been the greatest psyop, whatever you want to call it, that's ever been perpetrated on the world at this point on a social media level.
Absolutely. And, I'll take it a step further. You're saying, who would you rather be with? I say, who is the bad guy? I mean, it's such a shocking thing to me that people still have this question. On one side, as I said, you've got a group whose first instinct is violence, that radicalize children, that glorify death, that treat human life, and that's their own children. Everybody's in their community like spare change. Right? It's nothing, right? They manage to make hate. It's not just a strategy; it's their whole identity. On the other side, you got a group that literally has I know that they pretend it's not this, but the Israeli Defense Forces, right? They preach defense. They don't try to conquest. They don't try to dominate. They don't try to have some apocalyptic fantasy like their enemies do. They preach defense and protection, love their family, take care of their communities. They got plenty of bomb shelters everywhere. Everyone's taken care of. They just want to just live without getting stabbed and blown up and kidnapped simply for existing. If you are still unclear about who the bad guy is when you have one side who chooses hatred as a hobby and violence as a language, and the other side that just wants to be left alone to live and, I don't know, invent everything that makes the world better, then you're the problem as much as the bad guys are.
Well, brilliantly said. As I've said many times over, I don't want to discuss this anymore. Okay. But we're being forced to discuss this because this will not be let off out of the news. This is what the podcast world continues to talk about. This is the never ending story. And it's such an uncomfortable thing to have to keep on talking about because I mean, frankly, I would much rather be talking about the great things Trump is doing, which I think are many. I love to talk about, which we will talk about him going into Venezuela. It's about damn time. And speaking of which, the Venezuela thing, I don't think it's any coincidence that you have this story, this fake, I'll say a fake story about Pete Hegseth ordering kill shots on people that are after the first strike, after the 6 Democrats decided to come out and say, don't accept illegal orders. There is no way those two stories are not interconnected.
There's no question about it. And look, it's so easy, right? It's so easy to just, at this point, make stuff up and have the mainstream media just parrot it, right? What they say, the kill orders in Venezuela, the idea that he is just willy nilly throwing his weight around and making like judge, jury, executioner kind of decisions immediately after they had the entire show pony video of don't take illegal orders. And then when asked, couldn't name a single illegal order that had been issued. And then suddenly, magically, they came up with a bunch of illegal orders that were being thrown out there by Hegseth. I think that maybe, and of course, that everything is alleged, that we haven't proven one way or the other. But so far, if you make something up and you throw it out there and there's no proof of it, at this point, everyone's trying to now disprove a negative on the other side, but nobody has been able to prove the positive. And it seems really convenient. That's the word that keeps coming to mind.
Listen, I agree 100%. And I love all the people that, I mean, what are we supposed to do about violence. And this is a huge problem the White House has with messaging. I don't think they message, as I brought this up over and over again, I don't think they message who they're arresting, who the villains are, and I don't think they're doing
And
a
what the
good
benefit is for Americans as they do it. That's the
right.
other one.
And I don't think they're doing the compare and contrast well enough, even remotely close. I don't think they're saying, it's so easy for people to point at the gardener that got picked up as opposed to the 30 sex traffickers that got picked up. I mean or last week in Chicago when that woman got burned, or 2 weeks ago. There are 20 to 40 people on monitors that have leg monitors on Golan that have committed murder or attempted murder that are out on bail in Chicago that have leg monitors on them. And this person that burnt the woman on the train, it glitched. I mean, it not a glitch. He had 7 priors for doing illegal stuff, or I guess anything's illegal if you walk outside the zone when you have that leg monitor. So I mean,
Yeah, but
think about
at this point, we already know that their entire system has been upended because, or better yet, the system has shrugged. When people now are being tracked or when they're under supervision or frankly, even when they're committing crimes, half the time they're just let out. There's no bail, all of this stuff. There's a revolving door. I don't remember what the percentage is, but it's a tremendously small number of people that are committing a tremendously large number of the crimes because they keep getting put on the street. So everyone knows this by now, both the criminals and the victims. And so it's become something where, yes, crimes like stalking and assault and home invasions and even setting women on fire, as you talk about, is something that is going to happen over and over again because people are, even if they are wearing ankle monitors and under supervision, all that other stuff, nobody's paying attention. Nobody's paying
yeah,
attention to it.
you know what it reminds me of? It doesn't remind me of because I was really too young and I read about it afterwards, I think, more so the movie and the band played on in a sense. But the AIDS epidemic really did not get, obviously, the light it needed until they realized it was in the blood supply. And I want to say it was like Paul Michael Glazer's wife, or it could have been whoever's wife that she was a stray female that got it from the blood bank that started finally getting to pay attention. And what are we going to have to see? Is it going to have to happen in extremely safe neighborhoods that are truly like becoming war zones? And I said this to a friend of mine. I said this to somebody on The World According to Ben Stein the other night because he's like, well, I don't want my federal dollars being spent on this stuff, because I live in a safe area. And I was like, crime spreads. Crime spreads. It doesn't have, at a certain point, go to Beverly Hills. I mean, you have private security guards locked and loaded in I mean, at what point do it spreads? And this is a problem. How many regular people have to die before this system is overturned? And before we get
You're talking about death, right? But let's just take it down a notch, right? How many robberies, how many broad daylight carjackings, how many people getting shoved in front of oncoming trains, how many people getting knocked unconscious on the subway, or as you said, getting lit on fire on the subway, or as we saw, getting stabbed on the subway, or any number of things. How many times are any of those crimes going to happen before people can admit crime is out of control? Because apparently all the stuff I just mentioned isn't doing it for some
it
people.
doesn't matter. You're right. It makes what we're talking about. There seems to be, as we brought up, a cognitive dissonance, and
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't.
exactly it.
It's the most bizarre, wild thing that I think I've seen in my lifetime. Where we're seeing everything, but it's like it used to be not in my backyard. Now it's not in my apartment or not in my house.
Right. Not in this corner where I'm cowering
Right,
quietly.
right. No longer is it like my backyard, right? It's like as long as it's not happening to me, and I don't get it. We have, I mean,
So I'm asking here, I'm asking you, Judah, what do you think it will take? And I want to be clear, nobody's rooting for violence, obviously. Well, that's not true. Some people are. A lot of the Antifa crowd are. But I'm saying the victims, the people, the everyday people who are living in these cities are not rooting for violence. Nobody wants that. But at some point, since they keep turning a blind eye to all of this, you have to ask what level of chaos will make the denial crowd finally blink? Is it going to be like when a celebrity gets taken down? Is it when a politician, when a journalist? Like, what is it Well,
I
actually,
don't think I don't
we've seen some of this stuff already,
I don't
so
think
we're
it's
not there
anything.
yet.
I don't think it's anything. I don't think we've even come close to hitting a bottom. I think if God forbid the Oscars, that nobody, but again, it's like if a tree falls in a forest, nobody's actually watching the Oscars, so probably nobody would notice if something actually happened at an event like that. But I don't know. I think people want to speak out. They're just scared to death still to speak out, and I
I
do
will tell
believe.
you, sorry to interrupt. You just mentioned that, so I just got to throw this out there. Many years ago, back in 2005, 2006, I was involved with selling a television show to NBC called Heist. And the premise of it was created by Mark and Rob Cullen and produced by myself and the guy who now runs DC Comics alongside James, what's his name? Anyway, James Gunn, thank you. In any case, the premise of the show was that during the Oscars and when everyone was distracted, this group was going to do a big heist in Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive during the Academy Awards. That was the whole premise of the show. And then like trying to get away with it. And then I'm thinking to myself now, if that happened, since it would be really visible, or if the Academy Awards themselves, God forbid, like a designated survivor, it's like everybody, every celebrity, just the whole thing just went up in smoke, something like that. Would that be enough? Would people go, hey, I think maybe something's out of control here? Like how big? I'm genuinely asking, how big do you think, or you think there's nothing that can
I
do
don't think
this
there's
thing?
I think we've reached a point of such insane tribalism. I think we've reached a point of such warped brain conditioning, not just done by obviously the left is totally been eaten up by the mind virus. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anybody could say differently. I think it spreads. I think the mind virus is just like the living dead. I really do believe it spreads very quickly. We do witness it on the right, obviously, as we talk about all the time. You
Hmm.
have Tucker Carlson saying he feels safer with a Pakistani taxi driver, or wants to talk to a Pakistani driver in England before he would a
So
white
nice, he said. All
yeah
the
before
Pakistanis are so nice.
before a white person. And this is the same person that was saying, wouldn't it be great if England or Britain was as nice as Russia? And
He also said Sharia law was awesome. He also said a lot of things.
yeah, about Sharia law being made up like boogeyman type thing. Sharia law is not a made up type boogeyman. And this goes again to there's no challenge to this type of thinking. There's zero challenge to this type of thinking. So you look at Somalia right now, or Minnesota, right? AKA Minnesota, where there have been tons of fraud, we've invited it, and hence, Islam into this country, and Dearborn. You look at all this type of fraud, they don't want to assimilate. They want to take over. Okay, this isn't like they want to come here and be in the neighborhood with the churches and the synagogues. They do not want to be part of our country, and we have to be honest about this, and we have to extricate them from our country. I don't care how that sounds. That's just a reality. And
I'm
if
going
we're
to quote Mend. Mend said something, I think it was Mend who said, if you don't assimilate, it stops being immigration. At that point, it's an invasion, right? Because the whole point of immigration, it only works when people come to America and want to be part of the country, right? The whole idea is to integrate. The whole melting pot concept is you melt into it, not that you stand apart and have your own little mini version of the place you just ran away from. This is just like what happens when we see the liberals running away from their cities because the policies are horrific and living with them is horrible, and they go to these other states, these right wing states, and then bring their politics with them because now suddenly, as if that cognitive dissonance you're talking about, they suddenly start voting for the very thing they ran away from, not realizing they're doing. It's genuinely mind-boggling. So those people are doing it, I think, out of sheer idiocy. But the people who come here as immigrants and deliberately don't assimilate and deliberately try to then change the place they've gone to be closer to, let's use Sharia law as the example, those people are not doing it through idiocy. That's called strategy. That is
No,
their
listen.
plan.
No, listen. I think you're 100% right. And here's the thing that drives me crazy the most. I'm being serious when I hear people say America only or whatever it is, in the Marjorie Taylor Greene crowd and and the Tucker crowd and all these people, they're insinuating that Trump
I'm sorry. Can
doesn't.
I ask that we never talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene again?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Thanks so much.
So the America only crowd that believes whatever they want to believe, that doesn't believe that Trump is treating America first. And I am still so confused as to what he's not doing to make America first. He's trying to get rid of illegal immigrants as quickly as possible. He's trying to cut down on crime. He's trying to fix the economy. He's trying to get foreign investments into this country, even though sometimes I disagree with where those investments might come from. He's doing everything in his power he can't literally flip a switch and say your electric bill is now lower. He
Yeah, but you
can't
know
say.
what? I gotta pretend to push back here. Notice I said pretend. I'm gonna pretend to be one of those guys. Okay. Yeah, but he said Israel. Yeah, but he said a name of a foreign country. He said Venezuela. He said the name of a foreign leader. He said something that had without the word America in the sentence. And so therefore he's not America first, or he's not America pro America, because he mentioned pardoning Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, how could he dare do that when we have so many problems here? That is genuine. That's a real argument. By the way, for anyone listening, that's a real argument that's been made. Because other countries have been mentioned by Donald Trump, by the president, other world leaders have been mentioned by Donald Trump, or he's friendly with other world leaders, or he wants to take out other world leaders, or whatever it happens to be. He wants to preemptively strike something that might eventually hurt America. Any of those things, because they're not only myopically sticking their head only in American soil. This crowd who could not understand what America is less. They think patriotism means building a blanket fort around the country, pretending the rest of the world doesn't exist, which is political agoraphobia. They believe that Trump is not pro America. That is, I'm not kidding. That is the truth.
No, listen, I listen, you're preaching to the choir, and this is Ann Coulter disease, and I know Ann. And this is like this is Drudge Report disease. I can't grasp what more people want from a president. And I'm not saying this as the hour of power, Donald Trump hour, because there are certain things I am critical of. Okay. But
Yeah.
I can't, but as far as intentions go, what more intentions can he have to making our country safe, to making our country prosperous? What more could he be doing?
Here's the thing. They don't understand how the world works. They have been told something by whatever pocket of the internet they get all of their thoughts from. And I don't mean their information, I mean their thoughts, because they just copy paste those thoughts from the mouth of whoever they're listening to, and then they vomit it back to you verbatim. They don't even change it because they can't, because if they do, they might screw it up because they don't actually know what they're talking about. And anyone who says, America first, we shouldn't help anyone overseas, wait until fentanyl crosses the border, or until the cartels start treating Texas like a vacation home, or still until China decides the Pacific belongs to them now. Right. I forgot. The world affects us whether we pay attention to it or not. And so the America only people confuse isolation with strength. They think being a superpower means hiding under the bed until the bad guys go away. But Trump, who is doing all the things that you mentioned, and much, much more, by the way, in terms of strengthening America, shaping global events is strengthening America. Drawing red lines, blowing up terrorists is strengthening America. Making NATO pay their fair share is strengthening America. When he draws a red line and then actually pays it off like he did in Iran, the try me, I dare you doctrine, that strengthens America on the world stage. It doesn't mean that he can't support other allies. Allies strengthen America. It doesn't mean he's distracted from America. It means that he is working with the allies to defend America. For those of you who truly don't understand it, if you are listening to this, I want to make something clear to you. The intel that we get from other countries actually makes us safer than anything the Pentagon does. The Pentagon acts on that intel, but without that intel, you have no idea how often stuff would be blowing up left and right in your backyard.
Well said. And I listen, I agree with you 100%. That's why I bring it up. And you know, we have a big issue brewing. And here's the big issue. Enough with this neocon stuff. Okay. So you have Don Jr. coming out. Neocons are trying to manufacture conflict around Tucker in an attempt to destroy MAGA. Don Don Jr., shut the hell up. There's a reason. You know what? I don't care if that pisses people off. I don't care if I don't get an invite
Why would
tomorrow.
it why would it piss everybody knows that Don Jr. and Tucker Carlson and JD Vance and a whole slew of these people are all buddies. JD Vance is in office because of Don Jr. and Tucker Carlson.
And Don Jr. is also on the board of 1789 Capital, which
Percent. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
well, 1789 Capital is what is it? The one Islam Muslim guy, and it's Rebecca Mercer from the Mercer Publishing.
Hmm.
What do you call it? Conglomerate or oligarch, where she's worth $7 billion, and they gave the seed money. Not that he needed it for $15 million up front and for Tucker's show. And the reason I'm bringing this up is like Don Jr. No, it's not. Get it? This neocon thing. If you want to call Mark Levin a neocon or whoever is
Yeah, but
just because
you know what he means, right?
yeah, no, of course. Neocon means Jew. And
Yeah,
neocon
neocon means Jew. Everybody heard that?
yeah.
Neocon means Jew.
Yeah, it
Neocon
is.
means Jew.
It's a trope. I mean, when you hear Dave Smith bring it up, when you hear any of these people, it's a trope for Jew. And I mean, I wanted to ignore that for a long time because, well, I was against certain things at a certain point. So yeah, it was very hard. It was a very hard rub for me because it was like, oh yeah, I'm against. Obviously, I became very against the Iraq War, like many people did. But it was the easy thing to say. And I look at it, and I really want people to look at it. And I look at like Reagan's administration, or if you want to say the neocons were there. The neocons, they weren't Jewish.
Well, no, but it's 100% true. Look, neocons had a meaning, right? In the 70s and the 80s, neocons meant basically a bunch of ex-liberals who got really war hawkish. That's what that meant. That's it. They half weren't Jewish. You're absolutely right. But now the word only appears when someone wants to essentially kind of subtly or not so subtly attack Israel, attack Zionism, or anyone who says maybe America shouldn't abandon its allies to terrorists. And it's always the same thing. It's like anyone who wants to say the Jews are controlling everything but doesn't want to get canceled. They can say Zionist was part one. You guys did that enough so that now people understand that Zionist meant Jew. Half of you admitted it already. So now we stop pretending Zionist doesn't mean Jew. And now you can say neocon and have that be Jew, right? But here's the funniest part. The geniuses who accuse you of being a neocon because you support, I don't know, Israel's right to exist. Weird. They will say nothing about actual warmongers like Iran's ayatollahs. The anti-war crowd get real quiet every time the terrorist wants to start
That's a
problems.
great point. That's a great point. I mean, you know how great a point that is. That it's almost so simple.
It's almost stupid how
Yeah, yeah,
simple it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yes.
Keep it simple, stupid. That is such a simple point. And no, Don Jr., I don't care. There's a reason you're not running the company. There's a reason you're not running the company.
Oh,
I'm not gonna speculate. I'm not gonna speculate anything, Don Jr., but there's a reason you're not running the company. And there's a reason why Eric is, and there's a reason why I think he trusts his son-in-law. And getting back to it, so you have Witkoff now going to the Ukraine. And I like Witkoff as a human, Golan, but I don't think there has ever been a truly, what's the way to say this?
out of his depth?
Yeah, out of his depth, ill-equipped envoy, whatever you want to name him. He's the reason, supposedly, that got leaked. That
Hmm.
the original the Russian peace plan got leaked. I mean, Steve Witkoff. The reason why, let's be honest, the 20-point plan, even though we disagree a lot about the 20-point plan happened, was because of Kushner, not because of Witkoff.
Percent. And by the way, anybody anything Trump acknowledges that is he walked into the room and suddenly Witkoff had already been in that room, had already been in that room. And then suddenly our bro shows up and he's like, hey, Ivanka's waiting in the car. Let me just wrap this up in 2 seconds. Got to go. Bye. And it was done. That was it. That's how quick that happened. Steve Witkoff handling the peace process. Please. It's unbelievable that he is the one who has put forward this idea. Hey, we got like 100 terrorists trapped in a tunnel. They're all murderers and rapists. We should have that be part of the peace process. What, Steve? What? Bro, what? Are you listening to the words coming out of your own mouth? You are bad at this. You've been bad at this since the beginning. Other people have been saving your ass time and again. And I understand you owe a lot to the Qataris. They bought your hotel when no one else would, but that doesn't mean you get to screw up this deal.
I agree with you. And I think Men's not here, but this is my favorite thing that happened this week. I guess Trump called Waltz retarded. And yesterday he doubled down on continuing to call him retarded. And, I sent you that the story that people in Minnesota were really trying to get Kamala Harris not to get this guy in.
Right. Literally, by the way, leaked messages say he's damaging the state. You cannot have him be part of your campaign. And then he came in. By the way, this is not even part of the story. I just think it's amazing. In his interview with Kamala, he was like, I'm real dumb and I'm bad at talking good. And then she was like, you're the one. So, yeah, everybody, including himself, said he was retarded. Continue.
I just, it's one of those things, and it's like, it shows you obviously her incompetency, or it shows you her insecurity of having
Insecurity, for sure.
of picking this guy. But it also shows you what's going on in Minnesota. Obviously with this massive fraud and everything in the Somali community. And I mean, I guess I don't know if they're true reports or not about they're thinking about deporting Ilhan Omar. It would be fantastic if they actually did for immigration fraud. But
Mm-hmm.
this is a state in the country. Let's not kid ourselves. It's the one state that
Which
didn't vote.
country? Somalia, right?
Right.
Okay,
And
sorry.
over the weekend saying, yeah, the best president is the Somali president. And mind you, this is the only state that also, if people forget, that didn't vote in Ronald Reagan, right? He won 49 states minus Minnesota because of Walter Mondale. But
That was
Walter,
before it was Islamabad.
it's listen, we could ignore this. I mean, we can. If people really want to actually just ignore this and listen to Tucker or Pierce Morgan or Rogan or anybody on the left, have at it. You'll be dead. Okay, that's why the name of the title of the show is we've been red dawned by Islam without a
Mm-hmm.
bullet ever being fired, because as Golan and men have constantly brought up about Yuri Bezmenov, this was his whole plan of how you take over a country without ever firing a bullet. Okay, we have lost a state at this point. We have lost Minnesota. We've definitely lost part of Michigan. Okay, and it's a problem. And I don't care what Stephen Miller has to do. Stephen Miller is the only person that sees fully clearly, one of the few people, I should say, that sees clearly and knows what has to get done. And I'm all in on
Absolutely.
what Stephen Miller wants to do and everything he does. I mean, what are you looking at? I mean, come to Los Angeles, go on. I mean, this place, we have 72,000 homeless people. 72,000 homeless people in the greater Los Angeles area, 43,000 homeless people in LA proper, 42,000 homeless people. If people don't think this is just not right, what's going on, and people constantly, and this is an issue I have with what JD Vance has said, is illegal immigration might be hurting the housing market. I don't know the data on that. I don't know if he's ever actually shown the data on that, but it's like I've brought up many times. If you build up American cities, you will have more places to actually live. Okay, we have our major cities that nobody wants to go and live in.
You're 100% right. And this dovetails perfectly into what you were just talking about. I know I bring it up a lot, but I'm going to bring it up again. You mentioned Yuri Bezmenov's ideological subversion model, that 4-stage ideological subversion model. What is happening right now? Guys, open your eyes. This is not me reading what's happening now and then applying a term to it. I'm going to tell you what Yuri Bezmenov spoke about decades ago. He said, as an ex-KGB agent who said, I know how Russia, and Russia, of course, is who initially created the Palestinian identity and created Palestine as a place that they were trying to use as a tool to bring down democracy, not to bring down Israel. That was just the subterfuge, as we know. It was to bring down democracy. It was to bring down the West. And the first stage, I won't go through all four of them. I'll just talk about the first stage was demoralization, that 15 to 20-year demoralization period. And there were four elements to it, right? The whole idea is how you break society's belief in itself. Think about how this applies today and think about how it applies to what Judah was just talking about. You infiltrate the media, universities, culture, and bureaucracy. That's step one. Step two, you undermine traditional values, listen, patriotism, religion, we're watching this happen, and social cohesion. Sound familiar? Sounds a lot familiar to me. That's number two. Number three, you normalize self hatred, and that doesn't mean self hatred in yourself. It means self hatred in your nation. And also self hatred in yourself, too. We've been pretty good about that as well. And just cynicism in general, right? And the fourth step is you make people unable to distinguish truth from propaganda. Thank you, social media and TikTok, right? The rule that those are the four steps. The rule that Yuri said was once a population is demoralized, you cannot convince them with facts. Have we completed the demoralization stage of this process, Judah?
I think we are. Listen, I'm not. Here's the thing. I've never really been. We're both Killers fans, and I tend to be Mr. Brightside. But I got to be honest with you on this one. I don't see it anymore. We're not living in the days anymore where Rush Limbaugh is the king of the airwaves. We're living now, sadly, in the day and age where idiot podcasters are the kings of the airwaves, and we're living in a where we still have legacy media on the left being kings of the airwaves. So we're witnessing people destroy our most basic things with lies, with the simplest sleight of hand lies. And I mean, God bless people. I don't have children. You do. I know there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that listen to us that have children. You got to be teaching your children because they are not going to be learning this in school. They're not.
100%. And this is something that my wife and I know Mend is on the same page too. We strive to make sure our children understand what's actually happening in the world. We push against the lies. There's another killer song, "Everything Will Be All Right," right? I keep saying that out loud and I keep hoping it's true. While in the meantime, I run for cover. Yet another killer song. I could do this all day. But I really believe. Oh, speaking of Tucker, a white demon love song. Anyway, the point of what I'm saying, I'm not just going to keep giving you killer titles, but the point of what I'm saying is, yes, I think if we can educate the next generation, this is something that Charlie Kirk was actually really successful in doing until his assassination. And I hope that that organization does not do what it looks like it's doing and fall by the wayside or fall into the demon's hands. So in the interim, someone else has to rise up and someone else has to say, truth is important. Believing in America is important. Believing in morality is important. Putting the propaganda aside and being able to recognize it is important. Someone needs to do it. If it's us, great. If we're part of that cacophony of voices, great. But it needs to be more than just us. It needs to be needs to be our leaders. It needs to be our youth groups. It needs to be the Boy Scouts, whatever it is that actually can raise up an entire generation of people who will understand that this generation may have been lost, but the next one needs to be able to supplant it, or else the world will be lost.
I'll give you a perfect example of that. I just want to get to the rants. And if you're listening to this via audio at the Daily Cheat Sheet, you could also follow us on Rumble and watch us live every day, hopefully at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. But David brings up in the rants and about John Rich being on Tucker Carlson, right? And it's hurtful for people like, I know David's from Kentucky, big John Rich, big country music lovers. And you think at a certain point, it's like I heard Dana White talking about the Nelk brothers or whatever, that idiot, and I'm like, oh man, Dana White, you got to bring up what is it, the Nelk boys and the Nelk brothers, whatever
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just another of these asinine idiot people. And I'm like thinking to myself, are you not watching? Are you not listening? Like, is there such a big divide? And there is. I mean, we're at the point where I don't know what to say, but just want to talk about this one little thing very quickly because in France, they've arrested so far to everybody that says, look at all the young people that were killed in Gaza or this or that. Let me explain to you, as we've explained to you before, there is no, when you're 13, you're holding a gun. Okay.
Hmm.
When you're 14, this is how you're raised in those areas. We have enough videos online of how they teach their young people to not just hate Israel, but to hate the West. Okay. We see this all the time. And in France, we had 20 minors arrested for plotting attacks on Israelis around uh, France or around the world.
Well, they were arrested for terrorism. Let's just say it as it is: jihadist inspired attacks. That's literally, that's not my opinion. I'm not trying to sensationalize. That's what they literally called it. They said this is youth radicalization with terrorism preparation. That's what that is. So this is not merely. I mean, we sure they were talking about Israeli targets, but when they say Israeli targets, do we understand what their intended targets were? They were symbolic, and they were all going to, they were going to try and take out Israelis, but they were talking about, in France, big public landmarks, institutions. They wanted maximum shock. So while their message may have been to Israelis, this was going to break French society if successful. This was not just about Israel. This was about demoralizing, again, the West.
Yeah, and somebody brought up like that's a whole nother thing that they're trying. I don't know who this was that brought this up. That's the new talking point too. Is what is the West? What is what does that mean? Destroying Western values by Sharia law. Like, what does that mean? Western values. Well,
Who
you know
brought
what
that
West.
up?
Supposedly it's like one of the new talking points. It's like going after the term Western values now.
God.
And
Okay.
but
This is like when they said, "Oh, Judeo-Christian values." What does that even mean? That sort of thing.
right, right. Or even just saying, right, defining a Christian Zionist. When I said to my Christian friends, and I've said this, what is a Christian Zionist? They have never heard the term before. It means you're a Christian.
Because it means it's just Christian.
Right. So yeah, exactly right. So look, I don't know how many things more we have to witness in our country. I don't know how many more National Guard things. I don't know how many more Charlie Kirk things. I don't know how many more women being burnt, people being shoved on subways, people, just not feeling safe before there has to be this change.
None of those things are Jews or Israelis, even though they seem to get the most amount of hate. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but it's all Mossad related,
How about
and
this? Can I? Okay, sorry, I got to go back to the Western values thing real quick because it's an interesting point. All right, you know what? There are places in the West that have fallen. There are places in the West that has fallen. So how can I say Western values? This is a good point. All right, I'm gonna take your point. All right, here we go. Let's put aside the phrase Western values. Okay, but it doesn't exist anymore. Let's just say normal human behavior. Okay, normal human behavior. So what we're talking about is, even though they are Western and we know it, let's get rid of the word. It's bothering you. That's fine. Let's break it down. Free speech, does that count as a Western value? Right? The I don't know, the idea of Western values, individuality, right? Being able to be who we want to be, and all of that, having our own self determination. A secular government that is not run by an ayatollah or by religious zealots. Is that cool that we vote for, like democracy and all of that? Rule of law versus rule of power. Is that something? Are these or sorry, normal human values? Can we count that? Can we talk about pluralism or equality before the law? I mean, are any of these things? Forget the label. This is how people argue now. They argue about the semantic title of something instead of the substance of what's being talked about. So instead of saying there's a list of things that makes America better than other places and its democratic allies better than other places, and then here's a list of the things that actually make us better, they say Western. What's Western? What's Judeo? What's Christian? What's this? What's that? I don't care. Call it whatever the hell you want. Call it pickles, rules of butts. I don't care. This is the list of things that makes us better. And to pretend otherwise is, now you are doing the propaganda game that Tucker does when he pretends Sharia law is awesome, or he pretends that the Nazis weren't the villains of World War II. This is all just nonsense. So you can attack the semantics, but you can't attack the substance.
I agree. And by the way, Delamau, I'm not really attacking John Rich. And I'm actually a John Rich fan, just for the record, just so you know that all I'm doing is questioning. I get he has a new music video or new song out and he needs to plug it, and there are very few places to plug it, I guess. I'm not I listen, John Rich produced a song by, collaborated with a friend of mine, okay? Not a friend of mine, a good acquaintance of mine. And The Long Road to what was it called? It was the Lowenstein Kid. The Long Road to
Jer?
yeah, it was with Jaren. No, not the one dating Kevin's. Yeah, it's Jaren. Yeah, Jaren and the Long Road to Jaren and the Long Road. So this isn't necessarily. I'll pray for you is the song, and
There you go.
so John Rich and him were actually very. I like John Rich. This isn't a thing on John Rich. This has to go with. Yeah, I don't necessarily know anymore about where I want to go be platformed. Listen,
It's an interesting question.
I was offered this. Okay. Somebody offered me, you've been offered this too. For
Of
people that are
course.
just tuning in and not listening that don't know Golan. Golan was pretty much the number 2 at Marvel.
I don't know if I'd go so far as number two. I
Okay. He
was
was,
certainly one of the first 5 hires at Marvel. So at
yeah.
least top 5.
And he's the one that picked Robert Downey Jr. to be, to be.
You give me too much credit. Continue.
Okay, but anyways, he's an awful, and we do have to question. And somebody offered me a chance on being on a certain network, a certain thing. I want to tell you 2 things. I'll be completely honest. Westwood One wanted to give Ben Stein and us a show, right? And this is probably 2016, and we were going to do it, and it would have been a huge break for me, and it would have been great for me. And but the problem was they didn't have. Their commercials weren't union. And Ben is a big union guy. And Ben said, I'll do the show, but I won't read the commercials. If you want Judah to read, and they're like, who's Judah reading the commercials? And so we did not do that. And then somebody offered me, as far as the podcast go on a certain network. And I said, no. And that would have ensured 50 to 100,000 viewers if I would have chosen to be on that network. And I said, no, I'm not. This is Ben Stein. I don't care. I'm not, as much as I want my voice out there, I'm not putting his what he's built to be there. And I made a conscious effort not to do that. So yeah, I don't care. I like John Rich. I'm simply saying I wouldn't go certain places to plug certain things. If Tucker wanted to have me on, I would say no. I
By
mean,
the
I
way,
would.
this is the thing is I like John Rich too. I get it. You're selling a book, you're selling a record, you're selling a movie, whatever it is. You need attention. It's your job. You need to get eyeballs. You want that, I don't know if it's a book or an album, you want that Amazon ranking to jump, whatever it is. But you cannot pretend that every platform is the same. You can't. If you're going on if you're going on shows that platform extremists or propagandists or cheer for America's decline, and you are meant to be an American or pro-American, you can't just fall behind the excuse of it's just PR. That's a choice. Choices have meaning. It's like that thing of if you want to know who someone is, show me their friends, right? Where you sit says something about what you're willing to normalize. You don't walk into a sewer and then act shocked when people wonder why you smell like shit, right? That's just the fact. And so, yeah, I have a major problem with John Rich making that decision. And I get it's a massive audience. So it's like, on one hand, from a marketing perspective, it would be malpractice not to go on something that has such a massive platform. But does that mean you're going on Nick Fuentes? Does that mean you're going on, I don't know, Alex Jones? That means you're going on all these other places where are you going on Candace Owens' show? Are you going to make sure that every bad actor in town, I don't know, does David Duke have a platform? I have no idea. But if you're trying to sell it to everybody, would you really go to all those places? Because if the answer is no, that means you understand that you're making decisions. And if the book sales or the album sales, or the movie sales matter more than your principles, then it stops being marketing and it becomes moral bankruptcy. And that's a problem for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a problem for both of us, and both of us have had to make those hard decisions in our life. You in the movie, and just in all areas, we've had to make those decisions, and we've made decisions that have cost us financially, in many ways.
I don't
And
even
we're
want
not,
to tell you.
yeah,
Oof.
and it's not, no, and I'm not complaining. I sleep well at night. I sleep much better at night with those choices and a few less dollars than if I had more dollars and if I chose the other path.
Agreed.
I'm totally okay and at peace with that. And I'm not, again, I get it. John Rich is in the business where he has to sell videos. God bless. Do what you got to do. I don't know. I don't know in his case when enough is enough. How much is enough? Because John Rich is one of the most successful country musicians of all time. So I don't want to knock John Rich, but I am knocking his choice to go. I'm knocking his decision to go. And that's my thing. The last thing, though, quickly is this Venezuela thing. I want you to explain to people quickly what's going on in Venezuela, who is in Venezuela other than Maduro running the country and all the drugs there, all the other despot nations that have been, are plotting and planning, and how close Venezuela is to America.
Okay. Oh, you threw a lot at me. All right. So let's start with well, let's start with this. Maduro isn't the whole problem with Venezuela. Can we start with that? I mean, Maduro obviously matters. He's given, I think, I don't know if it's been verified yet. I don't want to speak to the rumor, but I heard that Trump basically said to Maduro, "It's time to get out of there, or else there's going to be a problem." Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay. So Maduro is the face of that regime, right? He gets the headlines, he gets the sanctions, but he didn't build that system alone. That's the thing that people don't realize. They often try to lay everything on one person's shoulders. You know, Hitler is terrible. To go back to, I'm not comparing him to Hitler. I'm saying Hitler was terrible, but Hitler alone wasn't enough to have the entire Third Reich. You needed an entire infrastructure behind him, people who believed in him, people who pushed his ideas, people who helped him rise to power, right? Same thing happens in Venezuela. Maduro has a whole power structure behind him. The threat to stability there, the threat to democracy there, the threat to U.S. interests. For all of you America only crowd, there are U.S. interests. That's the thing that Judah was talking about in terms of proximity, which we'll get to in just a second. All of that is being threatened by that entire power structure behind him right now.
You
All
have
of that.
Hezbollah training over there. You have all
Oh
these
no, oh
different.
oh oh, there's much more, right? So you have, in addition to what's going on within Venezuela itself, it also is a state that supports literally and physically terrorism worldwide. And there are actual Hezbollah outposts in Venezuela. This is documented. This is not conspiracy theory. This is a real thing that are actually taking place not under the nose of or behind the backs of, but with the approval of the Maduro government. This is an organization, and I'm talking about the government there under Maduro. This is an organization that is not only comfortable with the idea of destroying democracies and destroying the West and all the rest. By the way, again, especially for the US, it's so important. I can't emphasize enough that this is a hub for drug trafficking and terrorism and illicit networks and regional destabilization. It all is happening under his thumb, and this is part of it. So that's part of what you were asking. What was the other thing you asked about?
Close they are to us, and then we'll wrap it up.
The I don't know I can't.
I'm not doing a Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz here.
Right, no, but you know what? But it's not far. Basically, if you think about this, is I read this either earlier today or yesterday. From Miami to Caracas I'm going to get this wrong, but it's about 1,500 miles, something
It's
like
13.
that.
It's 1,300 miles. Just so you
All
know,
right, there you go, 1,300
Venezuela,
miles.
Venezuela to America is 1,300 miles. So just for people to put that in perspective,
Hang on, I
that's
want to
like
check one thing. Hang on one second. I want to check something. Vamp for 1 minute. I want to look at something. Vamp for 1 sec. Oh, here it is. Ah, U.S. territory. This is what I was curious about. Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is U.S. territory. How far away is that from Venezuela? 500 miles, right? It's like going New York to North Carolina, basically. And here I'm looking at something else here. U.S. Virgin Islands. 400 miles. So we keep getting closer and closer. All the not in my backyard that's happening over there, that's right off our front porch. That's why it matters, on top of a lot of other things, but strategically, economically, in terms of migration, big one, everybody, in terms of regional stability, in terms of drugs coming in terms of terrorism that they're supporting. This is not a distant crisis. This is a neighbor collapsing, and it's the metaphor I use on a regular basis. We're sitting on our house, we look over, and our neighbor's roof is on fire, and we're like, my home only. And we forget that the fire can jump. And by the time it does, it's too late to do anything about it.
yeah. No, listen, you're right. I just ended with this. You reminded me. I was in the hospital and the doctor was treating a friend of mine, and it was when the California wildfires were happening. I felt, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's certain distance from my home, and it's like 500 acres away from his house." And then you're like watching it. I'm not kidding. 30 minutes later, when the fire had jumped and I've never felt so bad for a doctor, for a person in my life, when you're knowing your family's over there, but how quickly, and he wasn't taking it like nonchalantly, you know what I mean? He was
Yeah.
like, I mean, he's a doctor. He's got to be cool under conditions when you're treating people, and he can't just run. That's why I hate when people knock GW. I'll knock Bush for a lot of things, and I've also, perfect example. I was invited to go to the Nixon Library and go meet with him. And when he had his art showing last year, and I didn't go.
I
What was I going to
remember
say
that.
to him? What was I going to say to him? I looked at. I told you, right? What was I going to say to him? I could look in your eyes and see. I see your soul. Like he said to Putin. What was I going to say to him? I had nothing good to say, so I decided not to go. That's how quickly fires jump, and people don't realize that. And listen, all I could say is I caution everybody to look at where they're getting their news or their stories. I challenge anybody to factually correct us today. Anything I've said that's been said on the show today.
By the way, I'm not kidding. I don't mean as a challenge. I mean, if we have messed something up, if we've missed something, tell us. We will mention it on the next show and we will correct the record. The whole idea for us is to continue to learn. This is not something where we're the authority and we're the only ones that have the information. We're telling you what we know. And if something here, I just said 1500, it turned out it was 1300. Okay, good to know. It's even less than I thought it was. Oopsies. So the idea of you challenging us is not meant to be like, come and get it. It's meant to say we are meant to be fallible, right? That's human, right? To err is human. Let us be fallible and let us continue to evolve and give you the information that you need. So please let us know if we've missed something.
Well said. And tomorrow we might be a little later because we have all of us have a meeting at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So we might be on a
Can't get
little
much
later.
later than how long it took us to get on live this time.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about like that today. Like, do we start live streaming at 1:30, praying like by the time we're done with our meeting? So hopefully we'll be on. And welcome to the new people that are listening. And it's okay that we disagree with each other. We don't hate each other afterwards. We encourage disagreements, unlike other people do. And that's how you could tell the difference between the fakes, the frauds and the fakes and the real people is I don't care if you disagree with us. Okay. I encourage people to disagree with us. If people want to challenge us on our stance on Israel, our stance on America only, our stance on America first, or what that means, have at it. If people want to challenge me on me thinking that President Trump really is a Mount Rushmorean president, that's fine. Challenge me on it. I will be challenged on. I don't mind at all.
I will add one thing though. We will remain open minded. You challenge us, that's cool. We're here for it. You remain open minded too. Listen to what we're saying and don't just automatically jump into your silo.
Yeah, I like that. And by the way, really good show. Really great
Silo?
show. Yeah.
Solid
And,
show.
can I tell you something about, I know I don't care. We're a few minutes extra. Silo, it's so funny because when I started watching that show, and I might have told you this, I called a friend of ours who's obviously in the business, and I called him and I said, I don't think Rebecca Ferguson's got that star power, right? And it's got that black actor who I love in the first couple episodes. I can't
David
pronounce his.
Aiello.
Yeah, is that however you pronounce his last name? Who's one of the best
David's
actors.
a friend of ours. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, directing his next movie in Qatar with Barbara Broccoli.
He's just a fantastic actor, and
Wonderful.
I remember sitting there going, "Oh, this show is." I didn't know it was written off books or anything, and then I was like, but okay, I'll watch episode 3. And then I'm on episode 10 and I'm like, oh, now I get it. Rebecca Ferguson's a star. And the point is I learned in the 12-step world is never have contempt prior to investigation. And I think that's
Oh,
people's
that's good.
biggest mistake is having contempt prior to investigation is like, listen to what you don't like, listen to what you like, but listen and don't have contempt going in. Okay. Just don't have contempt. Have contempt afterwards if you don't like it, but don't have contempt. I listen to Bill Maher now, and for years I would go to his show live because one of my friends who no longer talks to me since 2016 used to drag me to every show. And but just don't have contempt. On that note, we've gone on way too long. Golan's past his bedtime. His wife's gonna kill me. And I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I truly do. Christmas is coming up. I encourage everybody to download every Killer's Christmas song, and I will be encouraging that for the next till December 25th,
He
right?
will. He will.
And I will be encouraging Happy Birthday Guadalupe, one of the best music videos with the late great Luke Perry. So we're an all around show, culture too.
Look
News,
at that.
commentary, culture.
I had no
And
idea how cultured I was till you came into my life.
And on that note, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Remind people to follow and subscribe wherever you can. Be safe, stay open minded. You can find us everywhere at the dailycheatsheet.com. That's the dailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning and afternoon and night world wherever you are. God bless you all.